Now, Pamela McCall on CFAX 1070.
Hi, I'm Rosa Harris. I'm sitting in for Pamela McCall this week, and my question for this half hour is, why have sex when you can have cake? That's one of the questions posed by a group called the Asexual Visibility and Education Network. And my next guest is Amy de Vos. She's a member of this group. She's on the phone from Toronto. We're talking about a conference that's going to be held in conjunction with Pride Week. Welcome, Amy.
Hi.
So tell me a little bit about this conference. It's a conference organized by those in the Asexuality Network. First of all, can you explain what is asexuality?
Well, asexuality is someone who does not experience sexual attraction. Mm-hmm. So they don't have sexual feelings for other people, but they still may desire romantic relationships with people.
So does that mean that they would have celibate relationships necessarily, or how would that work?
It depends on the person. Everyone is different in their wants and needs. So sometimes asexuals do have sex with their partners for their partners, and some may prefer to have a sexless relationship.
And how many members are there in your organization to date, let's say in Canada?
I'm not sure of the number in Canada, but the amount of people who are asexual is approximately 1% of the population.
1% of the population. How have you arrived at that figure? Like, how do we know that?
I think there was a research done. It was probably back in 2009 or 2011, some way back, but we're estimating that that number is probably larger than we think.
Tell me, how has the LGBT community responded to you? Is it something that are they welcoming?
I think so, but there's still some hesitation with accepting a new person on the block, of course. Mm-hmm. And often in the acronym LGBTQIA, etc., they often use A to describe allies, but asexuals feel they have more right to the letter than allies do. Right.
So tell me a little bit about what this conference is going to discuss.
There's a huge amount of subjects that we're going to be covering, so it ranges from history, relationships, mental health, aromantic, research, and also I will be speaking for the visibility and content creation session.
What would be the purpose of bringing the visibility of this particular group to the forefront? What are you hoping to accomplish by doing that?
Hopefully for more people to know about asexuality and what it means, and also for in the mental health community to stop making asexuality to be some sort of disorder, which it's not.
Is it officially regarded as a disorder in the medical community?
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it gets confused with SAD.
Mm-hmm. SAD is?
I think it's a sexual disorder.
That's what it's called. Okay, the number we're going to call is 250-386-1161. What do you think about asexuality? Is it something that you personally have experienced? Or, do you have any questions for Amy about what it constitutes? Give us a call. You can also reach us via cell at star 1070 or via email at talk@cfax1070.com. So in this, as Pride Week approaches, will you participate in the parade?
Yes.
What's your float look like, I guess is my question.
Well, we're not going to have a float, but we're going to have a large group of us walking together.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering at what stage you recognize that you yourself were asexual?
Probably around the age of 16 or 17 was when I heard about what the word asexual, but I didn't fully describe myself as asexual until later.
And what twigged you to the fact that this was your natural orientation?
Just that I never had those feelings for other people, not even for celebrities, which people often would say, oh, that person is so sexy and hot. And
You just had
like that.
You had no responses in that regard at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that 1% of the population identifies somewhere on the asexual spectrum. I see here that it's divided into kind of sexual and romantic orientations. There are terms like biromantic and heteroromantic. So let's discuss how romance and sex are separated in the asexual community.
So basically, just like sexuality, there's a spectrum of whether you're attracted to men or women or other genders.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of sexual attraction to those genders, it would be romantic attraction. So they want to have romantic relationships with them. So they would either identify as hetero-romantic, homo-romantic, biromantic, pan-romantic, depending on who they're attracted to. There's also people who identify as aromantic, so they do not experience romantic attraction either.
So they have none of that at all. And where do you fit, if I may ask you, Amy?
I'm probably around biromantic. Sometimes I identify as hetero-flexible, but I think biromantic is a much simpler way of describing it.
So if we were to let's talk about the conference itself. How many people are you anticipating will be there?
Probably around 200. We have over 200 registered at this point, but it depends who shows up. But we're expecting a very large number of people to be attending.
And I guess it will be, like most conferences, broken down into different topics, as you suggested earlier. Is a large component of this education?
Yes.
And what form will that education take in the best case scenario? Is it something that would be introduced? I think nowadays there's a lot more comfort level at the high school and even in some places grade school level with the notion of LGBTQ concerns. Are you hoping to introduce this education platform into schools?
Hopefully. We don't have a specific session on that at this moment, but it's definitely a place to start if people are looking for more information about it and how to present it.
Do you think that there are biological reasons that account for this lack of sexuality, or that's perhaps the wrong word to say lack of, but asexuality on the part of this group?
It's possible, but a lot of that has to do with sex drive and libido, and a lot of asexuals still do have a libido, but they just aren't attracted to people in that way.
Amy, in a world that is very sexually oriented in one way or another, do you find it alienating to be on that side of the spectrum? I mean, certainly commercials, TV, movies reflect a lot of sexual activity nowadays. Does it make you feel alienated to be apart from that?
A little bit, yeah. I run a blog, and I often get messages from people who were so glad to hear about asexuality because they felt so alone and they felt either broken or alienated.
The number to call is 250-386-1161. You can also reach us via cell at star 1070 or via email at talk@cfax1070.com. Have you ever felt the desire not to have sex? It's kind of it's a little bit glib to say, why have sex when you can have cake? But have you ever experienced that out there? What do you think of asexuality as a new spectrum on the sexuality scale? I'd love to hear from you, but in the meantime, we're going to take a short break for some commercials. Hi, my name is Rosa Harris. I'm sitting in for Pamela this week. My guest is Amy de Vos. She's a member of the Asexual Visibility and Education Network, and she's helping to organize the International Asexuality Conference in Toronto during Pride Week. Amy, there's a quote here from C.J. Chasen, who is a member of an organization called ACE in Toronto. He's an asexual who's a member of that organization. He founded it, in fact. He said, and here's his quote, he said, "A lot of people watching the Pride Parade and in the parade told us we should go see a doctor. A lot of people offering sex, a lot of people insisting that we don't exist." Do you have a comment?
It's mainly based on not understanding what asexuality is. They think that we must be repulsed or not comfortable with sexuality when a lot of us are. We just aren't interested in it.
So they think it's a judgmental kind of thing that you're expressing. Is that correct?
That and not having a libido. Like, they think that we don't have a libido, and that it must be caused by some hormonal issue or something where we would have to see a doctor or a psychologist.
It's kind of interesting because, given the kinds of problems that the LGBTQ community has faced themselves, and I'm sure that not all members of that community are responding in the same way, but given the kind of prejudice that they've encountered, you would think they would be more open to your situation. Are you finding them more welcoming as time goes by?
Yeah, to a certain point where we do have a lot of acceptance, but it's still a lot about misunderstanding what asexuality is.
I understand that the Asexuality Visibility and Education Network, or AVEN, which is what I'll call it from here on in because it's easier to say, it has some 80,000 online community members from pretty well everywhere around the world. Is that right?
Yep.
That's pretty substantial. And can you estimate how many there are in Canada?
Approximately 1%. So
the same 1%, right, that we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Okay. Here's a great quote from David J., who founded AVEN back in 2001. He said, "One of the core narratives in our community is redefining the concept of what emotional intimacy means, what human connection means, and making that a story that's big enough to include us." So that's, I think, an interesting comment. Can you, in your view, I guess I know what the answer is, but have emotional intimacy without the sexual component? And what does that look like in your view?
For me, say you have that amount of intimacy with family, right? It's just not a sexual intimacy.
Mm-hmm. So again, what he talks about human connection. Again, I'd like to know more about how you connect in a romantic relationship with the sexual component removed.
So it would feel a lot like a friendship, but much deeper than that.
Okay, so the conference itself is going to take place, it's over Pride Week, correct?
Yes.
So what are the dates, just so people know?
So the conference is Saturday. It starts at around 10 a.m., and we are going to be marching in the parade at 1 o'clock on Sunday.
And beyond that, when the conference is over, what happens next with the organization? How does it move its agenda forward?
Basically, we're always there on asexuality.org if people have questions about it. But we still have conferences beyond that, smaller conferences, and we're hoping people that will take the inspiration from World Pride and present asexuality. In other words, go home and present it in their various communities. Is that correct? Yeah.
So I guess the next question really is this a movement that you think is growing?
Most definitely, yeah.
What's your evidence of that? Like, how do you know that to be the case? I guess I'm wondering, are you getting a lot of hits on the website? Is it increasing? Are you seeing more?
Yeah, every day there's always more people coming in saying, I didn't know about asexuality, but this describes me perfectly. And
are you seeing more general acceptance? Like, are you seeing more news stories about this sort of thing and hearing more in the media about it? Are any celebrities coming out?
No celebrities yet so far, I don't think, but we'll probably get there at one point.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what it takes to make this as mainstream as the LGBTQ community has become in recent years.
Basically, more media talking about it will definitely help get us moving along.
The number to reach us at is 250-386-1161. You can also reach us via cell at star 1070 or via email at talk@cfax1070.com. So, why have sex when you can have cake? Has anyone out there ever preferred cake to sex? We'd love to hear from you, and if perhaps you have a story that you can share with us about your own sexuality, whether you feel it, whether it's intense, whether it's not there at all. We'd love to hear from you. So, is this something that you think is it something that people feel from birth? Is it something that you think is a condition? Condition is the wrong word, of course, but is it like being gay or being lesbian? There is all kinds of evidence nowadays that's a condition you're just born with. That's who you are. Do you think it's the same thing, or is it more of a cultural thing, Amy?
I think it's definitely something born into, but of course people can change over time. But in the beginning of life, kids don't exactly pay attention to who they're attracted to. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they do, but it's not until around the ages of puberty that people start noticing it and people start talking about it.
And that's when it really materializes, in a sense, right? Yes. Okay. And I'm wondering if you have an estimate among those in your community right now, how many marry and go on to have children, for example?
I don't know an exact number, but I definitely see a lot of people who are married and have children and still identify as asexual. Mm-hmm.
And is it, in your experience in talking with these couples, is it something that both members of the couples accept as a reality, or is it something that some members prefer to hide from their partners?
It's kind of a mixed bag. Some are accepting. Some are afraid to tell their spouses because they don't know how they would take it or interpret it.
And in your own life, if I may ask, have you had relationships?
I did have a relationship at one point, but I just wasn't comfortable with it any further because I knew the person that I was with was a very sexual person. So it didn't last very long, but yeah.
Is it something that makes it hard for you to have that kind of intimacy that we were talking about earlier, that doesn't entail sex? Is it hard for you to find companions who understand that?
Definitely. It's because with the dating scene, it's a very big part in finding people, and you can't get away from it. Mm-hmm.
So loneliness must be a factor that people in your community experience.
Yeah.
So I guess having this website and having this community must be a very beneficial thing to all involved.
Definitely.
Yeah. So tell me more about what you're going to do in the parade. There won't be a float, as you said, but how will you make your presence felt in the parade?
Well, there'll be a lot of us there, and we're going to also be handing out flyers and stuff that explain asexuality and answer questions people may have as we go along.
Mm-hmm. And how many people are planning to be in the parade?
I'm not sure of the exact number at this point. Maybe around 100.
Mm-hmm. So that's a
rough estimate.
So that's sort of half of the community that's expecting to attend the conference, right?
Well, not exactly half of the community, but definitely a large number.
And for this conference, it is international. How many people are coming in from elsewhere to participate?
Well, I've seen people as far as Uganda, Italy, England, even BC, and Florida.
Wow, so it's pretty wide range, I guess, huh?
Yep.
That's interesting. Okay, we have Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. How are you? Oops, sorry. Hi, Stephanie. How are you? Stephanie? Seem to have lost Stephanie, and I think I'm afraid I've lost Amy too. Well, it was a really interesting conversation. I'd love to hear from people out there to see what they have to say about their own sexuality. Have they ever experienced a period where they weren't feeling sexually inclined at all? It'd be great to hear from you guys out there. And how widely accepted do you think such asexual people are presently in the community? Is it something that you're aware of? Do you know of anyone who's experienced or expressed asexuality? That would be very interesting to find out as well. We're coming up close to news time. After news, we're going to have Mary Ellen Turpel-Lafond. She's BC's representative for children and youth, as well as Stephanie Cadieux. She's the BC Minister of Children and Family. Lots of things to talk to them about. There's a great deal. We've got Amy back on the line. Amy, I'm so sorry I cut you off before. My apologies. Amy, you there?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry I cut you off before. My
Okay.
apologies, but it was a great conversation, and I wish you all the best with the conference and with the Pride Week gearing up right now. Anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with? Any pearl of wisdom that you'd like to leave them with regarding the asexual community?
Just be accepting for who people are, and make sure not to make quick judgments. If someone comes out as asexual, try not to be rude and
Judgmental, huh?
yeah, and basically, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being our guest, and all the best with your conference.
Thank you.
Take care. This is